Hello, everyone, at this North Sea product training. I see a lot of people have already been entered. For the communication reasons, we have switched the microphones and the cameras off. As been indicated, the product is being recorded, so afterwards we can also share this presentation with other distributors. So yes, a short introduction by myself. My name is Martin Westerhoff. I'm the product manager at Transnational Blenders, which is the production facility, and I'll be guiding you through this presentation from North Sea. Let's have a short look at the agenda for today. I'll be starting with a short, brief introduction of North Sea and the relationship with Transnational Blenders. Afterwards, we will talk about engine oils, a small general introduction about engine oils and what is important. And then we'll move over to the North Sea portfolio with the passenger car range and the heavy duty engine oil range. Talk you through the products, what they are, what the differences are. And then at the end, we'll have an outlook on the developments in the market worldwide, where the market is going. And at the end, you have the opportunity for questions. If you have questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat box. So, and then at the end, I will then go through all the questions in the chat box and hopefully get you the answers that you are looking for. So, to start with Transnational Blenders and North Sea Lubricants. Well, this is a fine aerial photo of our production facility in the harbor of Dordrecht in the Netherlands. We produce all the North Sea products, with exception of the water-based products. So we don't produce antifreeze or coolants. Also, we don't produce brake fluids, biodegradables, and greases. But all the other products that are being sold by North Sea are produced by Transnational Blenders. Transnational Blenders is also responsible for all the technical support. So that has advantages as a factory providing the technical support, that we know exactly what is behind all these products. We know all the formulations that we produce. We know exactly what we put into it, so we can give very detailed advice about to you about the products. There is an external warehouse, 3,500 pallet places, so that's where the products are stored. That is not in Dordrecht, that is a bit further on. And so that is in general for North Sea the storage facility. Customer support is in first hand being done by Sharon, so the customer service center. Any detailed questions are passed on to us as a factory. So who are we then as a factory? Well, the factory is already founded in 1963. I won't go through the history lesson, but in 2000, about 20 years ago, it was purchased by the NVM Group, which is still the owner. And within that NVM Group also is North Sea Lubricants. It's also a brand of this same group, and it is one of the biggest automotive brands in that group. As a production facility, Transnational Blenders is quite large. So with a capacity of 155,000 metric tons yearly, it is one of the largest blenders in Northwest Europe. As you can see, there is a lot of blending capacity. I won't go in that in detail. What I do want to add is that we are fortunate enough to have our own connection to the sea. So the port of Dordrecht is where we are located. And we have a jetty there that enables us to receive seagoing ships up to 105 meters to supply us with very large quantities of base oil. So it's an unfortunate thing that we can have a very efficient way of receiving our raw materials. Moving over to engine oils, this the main part of the presentation. Engine oil, as you probably have seen this slide before, has a few functions. One of the functions is cooling. The engine oil transport heat, especially from the hottest parts of the engine into the sump, and from there on it's cooled. The next slide, I'll have a little bit more detail on that. Also, a major part for an engine oil is sound redemption. So as some of you know, probably when you switch viscosities of an engine oil, you notice this the most. That at a lower viscosity, usually the sound level goes a bit up. That is mechanical noise which is dampened by the lubricant. Cleaning is also a major property of engine oil. So deposits from the combustion process or that enter the oil system otherwise are being transported by the oil to the filtration system where they are filtered out. Sealing is another major property of oil, especially in the piston area. The lubricant has also a sealing function. And then, of course, the main part is lubricating all the different parts in the engine. So if we have a look at that, it is quite a lot of parts that need lubrication. So these are mainly the moving parts in the engine. So a camshaft area, piston area, crankshaft area. They all have moving parts that need to be lubricated, and even more important, they all operate at different temperatures. So when you have a temperature gauge inside your vehicle, you usually only see the temperature of what is in this picture zone 5, so the crankcase area. That has a relatively low temperature, but especially around the pistons, this can get a whole lot higher, 200, 300 degrees. The oil must be capable of that. So that's why the following slides are about that. Why would you need a European quality oil? So that these factors are very important there, because you need an oil that can withstand such temperatures. Then go through these zones one by one. I'll start at the top with the valve train area. The valve train area is where you really notice a good oil from, let's say, a less quality oil. And that is because these parts move relatively slowly and with a lot of load on them. So you have more mechanical noise, which you can develop or less if you have a good product. There is friction modifiers in a good product that decrease the sound. Also, sound is friction. So friction, if you have less friction, you have a fuel economy benefit. That's why a good oil can help here. What you also see in this small picture in the right bottom is sludge. Sludge is deposits which you typically see at the coldest parts of an engine. So the valve train area is one of the coldest parts. So that's where you really see the difference between a less good oil and an excellent oil, because that has the ability to clean the engine better, to transport all the dirt to the filtration system. So that's where a good quality product really can make a difference. Last point on this slide is rust. Rust is a result of acids forming by the combustion process, and you need a product that neutralizes all these acids. So a product that belongs to the design of the engine to neutralize all these acids. So that is usually covered by the specification of the product. I'll get to that later on. The piston zone is something quite different. You have quite a lot of things where you can see a bit of damage here. I won't go into very much detail about them. These things are, where an engine oil can provide protection, friction modifiers, EP components which are inside an engine oil that protect against wear. Same thing with piston deposits. A good product will protect against these things. More summary of these these damages that could occur, and a good engine oil can provide adequate protection against this. Same story for the bearing zone. Below the piston, the bearings below the piston, the connection rod, the crankshaft. It is the engine oil that transports particles, the dust, to the filter and keeps it mostly away from these sensitive bearings, and also the acids should be neutralized so they don't corrode all the soft metal bearings. Last thing I want to point out here for requirements on oils is the turbocharger. This has in recent years become increasingly important. As you probably have noticed, there is a lot of new engines introduced which are a lot smaller than they used to be, and all are equipped with small turbochargers. The turbocharger is actually a component where the heat differences are enormous. So here in the picture on the right hand side, you have the intake, which is quite cold, 50, 60 degrees maximum. And on the other side, the red part on the left side is the exhaust side. It can easily get to 700, 800 degrees. And especially the bearing on that side will have a tough time. So you need a very good quality oil to prevent oil deposits there. On the intake, you see particles from crankcase ventilation listed. That is also related to oil quality. As oil is slowly evaporating, it ends up in the crankcase ventilation and it can form deposits in the intake. A good quality oil can reduce that. So that's what we're trying to achieve. Now, what is this oil made up of? To give you a rough impression, the majority of any engine oil is base oil. Between 70, 85% is base oils. The remaining portion is additives, and that with increasing quality and increasing demands towards an engine oil, that percentage is growing. So it's growing from 10, sometimes already even up to 20% is additives. The last bit is VI improver, which I'll explain in a few minutes. What you see for base oils is mineral sourced base oils. So in general speaking, that is base oil groups 1, 2, 3. You have fully synthetic products, which is group 4, or you can have a mixture. There's also a group 5 in base oils, but that is usually for very specific applications and is usually being mixed with some of the other. Within the additive system, that is a mixture of several components like detergents, dispersants, zinc, phosphorus components, corrosion inhibitors. It goes to too much detail for this presentation to get into that, but that part, that 10 to 20% within an engine oil is a mixture of such components. The last bit is VI improvers. Those are polymers, and those help to keep the viscosity of the oil stable. So just a small visualization of what's going on. At low temperature, these polymers contract, and at high temperature, they expand. So they basically do the opposite of the base oil. But the base oil at low temperature is very thick, and when it gets hot, it gets very thin. So these polymers then expand and keep the viscosity a bit stable. So then how is an oil blended? It's just a small idea for you to see. We have base oils, we have additives, we have VI improver, and basically our job is to mix the recipe that North Sea wants all together, and then with that we make a final product. So within that oil formulation that we produce, like I said, the base oils are one of the main factors. I found a small quote somewhere saying, if you need a good stock to make a good soup. And the same thing is true for an engine oil. You need a good base oil to make any good product. So what we select on is listed here: reaction with our additives. It needs to have a good viscosity index. It needs to have good flow properties at low temperatures. And listed here also is low evaporation loss, so NOAC. That basically also determines the deposits that end up in the intake, like I just said, and NOAC evaporation losses are noticed by customers as oil consumption. So that's why that property is also highly important when making a product. Furthermore, we add, of course, performance additives. Those determine the resistance against aging. Those determine the friction characteristics. And of course, they need to be very soluble in the base stocks that we have selected for the product. What is then important for selecting a product itself? One of the main features, the most important feature actually, is viscosity. Viscosity is determined in the design of the engine. So it is the thickness of the fluid. And luckily, the SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers, has made a table that determines viscosity. Because viscosity is not a fixed value, it is related to temperature. If the temperature is high, viscosity of oil is low. If the temperature is very low, the viscosity of oil goes up. So it is SAE who has made a table for it to give you a reference to define a product. In the top part here, there is values with a W at the end, but at the viscosity grade, that is called the winter grade. That determines the thickness of the oil at low temperatures. As you can see, we need to test that at a range of -10 to -35. And the bottom part is the 100-degree viscosity. And together, those two figures make up a viscosity of most of the engine oils, at least a multigrade oil. So a 10W40, which is a multigrade, must meet the parameters of 10W and of 40. So to give you an idea on the differences between a monograde and a multigrade, I've listed this picture. The red-orange line is a non-VI improved oil. That is a monograde. The blue line is a multigrade oil. And a multigrade oil has some advantages. So it is thinner at colder temperatures. So it means it flows around the engine more easily after a cold start. That helps to reduce fuel economy because there is a faster reduction of friction. And when the engine oil gets very hot, the oil stays thicker. So it has increased wear protection. That again is down to this polymer, which contracts and expands. So in the end, a multigrade oil typically gives you better fuel economy and increased durability. That is viscosity. Now you have specifications. Specifications are less determined. Let's say that way. There are more organizations in this area. I've listed a few here which influence the global market. CCMC was the predecessor of ASEA. You still see some documents in the market from that. You have the American ILSAC. API is from the United States. Those are military specifications, are also from the US. JASO is an organization from Japan, and ASEA is the European group of constructors which publish oil specifications for general use. Within ASEA, there is a whole range of specifications. I won't go through them in detail. If you have specific questions, I would love to ask them. I would love to answer them. But for this, I've just listed the most important one. What I want to say about them is how they are divided. So the AB category is for gasoline and diesel engines without particle filters, without exhaust. Well, they have after treatment systems, but the most important difference is particle filters. For those, particle filter systems is the C category. So ASEA C2, C3, C4, C5. Those have been specifically designed for gasoline and diesel systems with particle filters. The E categories, and in the future also an F category, is for heavy duty engines. So the F category being for fuel economy in the near future. On the OEM side, there is a huge variety of manufacturers. So we typically get the question, why can't we all get one oil? Well, these manufacturers, they all publish their own specifications. So I've just listed even less brands than on the previous slide, but these are about the specifications that are in the market. As you can see, it's quite a lot. So, and some of them are impossible to combine with others. So it's impossible to have one oil for even a large portion of this market. So to help you on your way in that, especially for the European brands, we have an oil advisor on the website. So for those cars, there is a database behind that oil advisor with all the OEM requirements and their viscosities that they allow, and we have linked our products to that. So that gives you a good advice on the product that you need for your vehicle. And of course, if it's not listed, or if you have any questions to it, give our technical support an email. And to cover all those cars and all those vehicles, we have a very wide range of products. And I would like to talk about the differences between them. So we've listed them in a few product families. The entry level is the wave power performance. For that, we try to achieve maximum value for money. To do that, we have very little approvals on it because that is costing money in the end. So the wave power performance line typically has no approvals, but it is perfectly suitable for all the specifications that we list on the product. For approvals, there is one step up. That is the wave power advantage line. I've listed that here as mid-tier products. They have OEM approvals on it. And with that, also you can go another step up actually to the wave power excellence line. Well, as the name already says, it is the best product range, the most general product range that we offer. So OEM approved with a very broad coverage of specifications and approvals, top quality base oils and additives. Then for specific applications, we have the wave power special line. So those are typically specifications that we can't cover on a very general product. It needs a more specialized product. That can also usually be used for other applications, but it is targeted at a single specification usually. I've listed them here. To start with wave power special ASP, which is basically PSA in reverse. It is specifically aimed for PSA B71 2020 90, which is a diesel specification which has been in use for about already for 10 plus years. So a very, very large group of vehicles in the market will require this, at least within Europe. Wave power special FEC, which is for Ford fuel economy oil. targets the Ford M2C 913CD specification, which is basically for most of the gasoline and older diesel engines, so the Z-Tech gasoline engines. For more recent engines, we have the Wave Power FEB, which is for all the EcoBoost engines. There's one specification for that, 948A. It's a 5W20 oil. So that is currently serving a very big share of the market. All EcoBoost engines have been introduced for the last 10 years, so that number is still increasing. For the latest diesel engines, we have the Wave Power FEA. So that is Ford fuel economy oil for 950A. That is the PSA sourced diesel engine that Ford uses for the last few years. That is a 0W30 product. Second, the next one is basically Wave Power Special GMD. It stands for GM Dexos. It is a product that complies with Dexos 1 Gen 2. That is used in all GM cars in the United States and basically most part of the world. For Europe, this specification has been used by Opel recently on all direct injection turbocharged engines. The Wave Power Special LLV stands for Long Life Volkswagen. So it is approved for 504, 507. We have 3 varieties of that, 0W20 for the latest fuel economy models, a 5W30 for basically anything from 1999 till today, and a 0W30. So Volkswagen started to make that the primary recommendation from 2019 onwards. So you will see the 0W30 getting into the market more and more. But we have a product for it. The special RNE is specifically aimed at Renault. So the RN0720 has been used on Renault diesel engines for the last 10 plus years. That product is specifically aimed to serve there as a fuel economy oil. The Wave Power Special VLV is, like the name it says, for Volvo cars. So there's 2 varieties, a 0W20, that is the fuel economy oil for basically all Volvo cars of the last 10 plus years. And there is a 0W30, which is for the older design of engines. Furthermore, we have a few specialties in the range. The first I want to mention is the Wave Power Classic. This is specifically aimed at classic cars, basically from Second World War all the way up to 1970, perhaps even a bit further, 1975. This is a product, a 20W50, with extra zinc phosphorus components to protect the valve train. Something totally different that we have in the range, and an absolute top of the line product, is the Wave Power Racing range. So that consists of Group 4 PAO base oils and the best possible additives that we can select to offer an extreme level of engine protection. So it can withstand racing type conditions. So we have that in 3 viscosities, 540, 550 and 10W60 is the absolute top product. That is the absolute best product that we can produce. If we then put this in perspective in this overview, here you can see how the products relate to each other and basically also how you can upsell. To point out just a few on how this overview works. I start with the Wave Power Performance LL5W30, which is a product from the entry line, specifically aimed at Volkswagen 504, 507. This is the non-approved product. where we want to provide maximum value for money. I've listed it in between two columns because it is to have 504, 507 requires a product which is already quite high in performance. So it's higher in performance than the typical performance range. But if you want to go to the next level product, you go to the Wave Power Special LLV 5W30. That is the approved 504, 507, and 5W30. And then what you see in this graph, you can upgrade again to Wave Power Special LLV 0W30, which is a product predominantly from PAO. So that has another extra level of protection. In this same overview, in the excellent column, you also see a few products listed as orange. Those are typically specialties. You can upgrade to Wave Power Special LLV, but we only recommend this when the vehicle is out of warranty. These products can be upgraded technically without any problem. It's just that you go to a different additive system, and within warranty, we would not recommend that. If there is any problem with the oil, it's better to have the original product in it, so there is no discussion about that. So possible to upgrade, but outside of warranty. In the middle part of this picture, you can very clearly see how the product families work. So you have the performance products, and then you can upgrade to the advantage products, and then you upgrade again to the excellence product family, and then you can upgrade in some cases to the Wave Power Racing, for example. So that is how these product families work. There's a few red lines in between, so you can upgrade to a different viscosity. So if I take the Wave Power Performance 10W40, for example, you could upgrade also not just to the Wave Power Advantage 10W40, but you could also move to the Wave Power Advantage 5W40. That's where these red lines are for. I've also listed a few products which are new, so I get to that also in the next slide. Just want to mention them here already. The Wave Power Performance line has been expanded, and that has been expanded with a 540, a 530, a 520, and a 0W20. And that has basically become the most cost-effective way to get to SN. If I just go back one slide, you see they are listed below the GMD range. Special GMD is our SP, API SP product with Dexos 1. So that makes it, those OEM requirements make it a fairly expensive product. And for the Asian market and the American, North and South America, we have noticed that there is a strong demand for a basic SN type product. So that's why the Wave Power Performance line has been expanded with these 4 new products, so that there is a basic SN level product. And if you need more, you want to upgrade, you can upgrade to the special GMD range. What I also want to note is a product which has been in the range already for several months, actually, is the Wave Power Advantage LE 5W30 and 5W40. That is aimed to be a cost-effective bulk product for all the vehicles that require a CSC3 or API SP, actually. It is a cost-effective alternative for Wave Power Excellence LE. That range has quite a lot of OEM approvals, which makes it fairly expensive. And for most workshops, they look for a product that works for all these applications, but at lower cost. So that is specifically where this product was designed for. Works great as a bulk product, can be used for nearly all the applications that Excellence LE is also being used for, but it has less approvals and therefore it's also much cheaper. Then moving on to heavy-duty engine oils. So here you see that the field of OEMs is a lot less complex. So there's only a few major OEMs, and I won't go into very much detail on this sheet. But what I do want to say is, as you can see, on the right-hand side on Euro 4, it gets a bit more an equal field of what OEMs are using in terms of emission control. So that makes it a little bit more easier to have a common product for all these major brands. So nonetheless, we still have quite a large portfolio. And I hope in the next sheet that I'll give you an overview of how this portfolio works. I just want to note that in the next slide, the only product that is actually missing is the monopower, because that is for very old engine designs and it is in quite active use for some transmissions at some OEMs. But the next slide, we'll start with Euro 2. And for that, basically the tidal power HD was designed. I've listed here 1540, but there's also 20W50. That is basically for Euro 2 and older designs. You want to upgrade, or you have newer equipment, Euro 2, Euro 3, Euro 4. There is the tidal power HDL product family. And again, one step up, even higher quality product, aimed at Euro 3, 4, and 5 without particle filters, is the tidal power HDX family. And within that family, we added an extra product. That is the tidal power HDX Extra. That will be a new product in that family that is specifically aimed at countries where the fuel quality is a bit lower. So any country with a fuel sulfur level of 500 ppm or higher, it will be recommended to use that product because it can neutralize more of these acids that are forming due to that poor fuel quality. If you then want to move from a standard drain interval to a longer drain interval on these Euro 3, 4, and 5 trucks without any particle filters, we have two products in the range. Tidal Power EHPD 10W40, and a little bit higher up in quality again is the Tidal Power Super UHPD 10W40. Those are all products for trucks without any particle filters, because simply the soot, the ash that these oils produce when they are burned is too high for a particle filter. For trucks of newer designs with Euro 4, 5, and 6 without or with particle filters, there is a new product. Tidal Power SXPD in 3 viscosities for the standard range, and a 5W30 for products specifically with particle filters. There is a 530. The difference between the HDX and the SXPD is the SAPS level. So all previous products were full SAPS, what they call in the market, and SXPD is a low SAPS product. For this range, there is another upgrade possible. That is the Tidal Power Special UHPD range. In specifications, there is not a lot difference between these two product families. However, in practice, there is, because the special UHPD range has more friction modifiers, so it will have a little lower fuel consumption, has a little bit better wear protection, and also it contains more dispersants, so it will keep the engines cleaner than with SXPD. But in specifications, that is not very noticeable, as I will point out in the next slide. So to give you some overview of some of the brands that are requiring special products. Scania is one of them. So there's three main specifications in the market. The LDF2 for the older designs all the way up to Euro 3. That requires EHPD 10W40. LDF3 is quite already a high standard of oil, so it has a long field trial to it, so difficult to achieve. That requires Super UHPD 10W40. And LDF4 is similar. It's quite a high quality of oil that you need to achieve that. So that is, for that we have the special UHPD 5W30 in the range. We hope that also SXPD 5W30 will achieve LDF4, but there is a field trial still ongoing. So hopefully that will come in the next few months, all the way up to perhaps a year, but the results so far look good. So there is a forecast that also that new product will get LDF4. The same story for MAN. So for the older designs, all the way up to Euro 3, there is EHPD. The new SXPD can be used for the very popular, but at MAN already phased out, 3477. So even though that is highly popular in the market, it's not possible to get an approval on that specification anymore. So you won't see that approval on SXPD 10W40. It will just be meets, because MAN has stopped granting approvals on that specification. There is an approval on the 3677 on special UHPD 5W30, and hopefully in the near future also SXPD 5W30 will become the more cost-effective option for this approval. For Euro 6, that is the main portion of the European fleet. I want to point out that we have, with especially the special UHPD, have a good solution to get a whole fleet on one product. That is the advantage of these products, either 1040 or in 530. Also, I want to use this overview to have the small differences between, in specifications at least, between the special UHPD and the SXPD. But the main focus here is that when you have a fleet of vehicles with MAN, Volvo, DAF, whatever, you can have one product to fit all of them. And yeah, that is a huge advantage for transport companies to have one product for all of their vehicles. With minor exceptions, as XPD might also be usable for that, but the main difference there is Scania. So on a 1040, Scania is a problem. On the 530, not necessarily, because we expect the product to get the exact same specifications as special UHPD. Of course, there will be differences in fuel economy, there will be differences in engine cleanliness, but both products are expected to get the same type of specification, so suitable for the whole fleet of vehicles. So that said, the SXPD is new and it replaces two older products that I haven't mentioned in the previous slides, but you probably all know. Tidal Power SHPD, which was predominantly aimed at a little bit more American specifications, CK4, Volvo VDS 4.5, and the more European aimed Tidal Power SCR with Mercedes-Benz 229.51 and a CAE 6. Those product lines will be replaced by the new SXPD series. And basically that has to do with different OEM requirements which raised the bar, so we had to change the additive system, both products anyway. And it now also, new additive technology allows us to have this broad coverage on a more cost-effective product than just the special UHPD range. a small outlook to the future. Where is the whole lubricant market going? What you will see probably in the market is a lot more specialty. So we expect that the wave power special line will grow and grow. And that mainly has to do that nearly every new product is a fuel economy product. And the margins on side of the OEM have become smaller and smaller. So you have 0W16s and 0W20s, which are tailored for just one application, or perhaps it is possible to get a few applications suitable for one oil. But as I've already listed 4 here, specialized 0W20s for just one brand. A 0W20 for Volvo, a 0W20 for Volkswagen Audi. They all have different chemistry, and they are not really interchangeable if you want to keep within the fuel economy limits and with all parameters. Technically, you could perhaps switch some of them around, but an OEM would have designed these products specifically for one application. I've listed HDHS. That is a viscosity at 150 degrees under load. That is directly linked to fuel economy. And that will become increasingly important in the future. So to be ready for that, we've also invested in new testing equipment specifically for HDHS. So this is one in 5 of such testers in Northwest Europe at the moment. That allows us to check if that product is actually meeting all the OEM requirements for HDHS. And to be honest, that has been surprisingly difficult. So you cannot operate the production tolerances of 5 years ago because the margins have become so small on the OEM side. So this really raises the bar also on our end for production. And the aim for all of this is basically just fuel economy. The OEMs need to prove a certain fuel economy over a certain amount of time. So also on the truck side, that story is the same. Lower viscosities, lower margin for error. So new specifications have been made for low viscosity oils, API FA4, and on ASEA the F category for fuel economy that also have lower HDHS. Now these oils are not backwards compatible, so it's not that this product will be suitable for all the older trucks, simply because that viscosity under load is too low for the older engine designs. So also here on the heavy duty side, we will get more and more specialized products to meet some fuel economy demands. What other things are driving the market at the moment, and especially also costs, which we cannot ignore? Increasing emission regulations. So in Europe, there's Euro 6 already in place for quite some time, but recently in India there is the new Bharat stage. In China there is new emission regulations. So that all requires mostly different additive technology. So development of additive technology never stops because of these changed emission regulations. Also, it requires development of new base oils, higher quality, better flow properties at cold temperatures to increase fuel economy, and so on. On our side, new blending technologies, because the new additives are usually getting more concentrated. So on our side, these new blending technologies, also like I said before, the safety margins have become smaller. Therefore, also the production tolerance on our side need to be smaller and smaller. REACH registration of chemicals which are inside the additives. There's huge amounts of research necessary to get these REACH registrations done. That is, of course, increasing costs. And on the other side, OEMs are also requiring more and more high-performance products to downsize engines, for example. Small turbo engines have more requirements to the lubricant than they have before. Biofuels is still a hot topic. Within passenger cars, there's a lot of experience on that side already. Heavy duty is still having some issues. So you see new tests appearing for biofuels in the market, and that is again driving developments of new additives. And especially in the recent few months, availability of components is a real issue. So with the conflicts in the world, with COVID, there has been major shortages of some components in the market. So there is a huge, again, development of new additives for different components, perhaps locally sourced. That is all impacting costs quite dramatically. So that especially in the recent months, that has been a major factor. So to summarize my presentation, what I want to advise you is to have a good look at when you want to select a lubricant for your client, is to know that manufacturers have their own specifications, to pay attention to the viscosity of the product, and of course also the specification requirements by the manufacturer. And to help you in that, we have an oil advisor. And when in doubt, or when not listed, or whatever question you have, please contact us. That's what we're for. We're there to help you to get the right product to your client. So with that, I want to conclude my presentation.